Hey everyone, welcome to The Lead, where we discuss the news and events happening in the community of Kahnawake. In this episode, we discuss the community's Rolling Blockade in support of Wet'suwet'en, the annual holiday parade, vaccine updates for kids, and Haudenosaunee lacrosse.
Eagle's Nest Convenience and LaFleur's Restaurant, located on Route 207. Eagle's Nest, open daily from 8 to 11. Pick up something fresh from their deli counter. Open 8 to 6 on weekdays and 10 to 5 on Saturdays. And while you're out, grab some takeout or call in for delivery at LaFleur's Restaurant, open 11 to 7 from Sunday to Wednesday and 11 to 8 from Thursday to Saturday. All your needs in one convenient location.
Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Standup. I am the assistant editor here at Yerdiwase. Today I'm joined by our editor and publisher Greg Horn, as well as our contributing writer Marc Lalonde. So welcome to the studio, gentlemen. It's nice to have you guys back in here.
Hello. Pleasure's all mine, Jordan.
Whenever we get together in this capacity, we like to talk about some of the things that have made headlines in our community over the last month. And I'd like to start by talking about one of the most recent things that had happened as of this recording, which was a rolling blockade in our community. And Greg, I'd like to turn some of my attention to you.
The rolling blockade took place on Wednesday, November 24th here in Kahnawake. It was in direct response to the actions of the RCMP in northern British Columbia last Friday, when a force of approximately 50 officers raided the Wet'suwet'en territory to reopen a forest road that's being used for workers on the Coastal GasLink pipeline to access the worksite. A few days before, the Wet'suwet'en reissued an eviction notice to these workers saying that they weren't abiding by certain rules that they set out, and said, you have 8 hours to vacate our territory and we're closing down the road. The RCMP then moved in to enforce BC Supreme Court injunction that bars the workers from Coastal GasLink from being hindered from doing their job. 14 people were arrested, including 2 journalists that were there covering the story, who were later released on conditions that they don't go back into the Wet'suwet'en territory into the zone that's where the injunction is affected to do their job, which is troubling. I believe on Tuesday night this week, the community held a meeting at the People's Fire to decide on ways in which to show support and raise awareness to what's happening over there. So it was decided that a rolling blockade would be held. People gathered at the fire 11:30 in the morning, and then 2 groups were made. One for 132 and one for 138. And at noon, the rolling blockade began with a traffic slowdown, as both groups slowly drove in a convoy down the community's highways and then stopped at the foot of the bridge for 15 minutes, creating a traffic slowdown. And then by 1 o'clock, everything was over and done with, and people went on their way. Of course, traffic was severely affected. One thing to note was that whenever the community does things like this to show support for other communities, other Indigenous nations, invariably the minor inconvenience that some people are experiencing leads to people getting upset, and then some people then resort to racism through social media or wherever, and that's just not acceptable. And saw a lot of that on Facebook throughout yesterday afternoon, and it's just very disheartening. And when these people who are this upset should probably be getting that upset when they see that Canada's National Police Force is being used as the private security firm of a energy company that's building on infrastructure on traditional unceded Indigenous territories.
And of course, the Mohawk Nation at Kahnawake, and as well as the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, have both put out statements this week also. Is that correct, Greg?
Yeah. This community, and I think all Indigenous communities across Turtle Island have really rallied in support of the Wet'suwet'en. Going back to 2019 when the RCMP first went in and raided and made some arrests, and then 2020. 2020, I think, was a big year. I mean, as their arrests were being live streamed on Facebook, some other people were calling to shut down Canada. And this is an issue I think that every Indigenous community across Canada and the United States can relate to. They're trying to stop this massive $6 billion natural gas pipeline from running through their traditional territory, and their group that the company wants, the Wet'suwet'en had actually proposed an alternate route that they would be agreeable to through their territory that Coastal GasLink and TC Energy have refused to listen to. So everybody kind of really can understand that, because every Indigenous community has some type of infrastructure going through their community. Just look at Kahnawake. There's 3 provincial highways. There's a bridge. There's train tracks. There's high tension power lines. And that's just our community. And others that have we have the Seaway. Our riverfront was stolen from us, and the Seaway was put there. So that's our community. But you look at other communities where there's dams, there's pipelines, there's all these other things that are there. And so when we're seeing this happening, and it's something that's preventable happening in Wet'suwet'en territory, I think everybody said no. Like, we got to do what we can to support them and to show Canada and Canadians that this type of behavior is not acceptable in this day and age. In 2020, that led to widespread railway blockades, in First Nations communities, right across Canada, because every community has a train track going through them, right? So it was just something that, it was natural. So, and because the community had done that, and which lasted, all of February and into March, it lasted about 6 weeks, and then the fire was moved to a current location. It was only natural that if something else happened over there, that the community would respond. Going back to March 2020, the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs had visited Kahnawake, Tyendinaga, a couple other places, and informal agreements were made that our communities would support each other in times of crisis. And this is what we're doing right now.
It's absolutely fantastic to see the support, as disheartening as it is to see what is unfolding out in their territory in British Columbia, to know that they have the support here in our community. We'll continue to provide that support. I think that's just absolutely fantastic. It fills me with pride. Yeah,
and it's just one of those things that, again, it resonates with I think with every Indigenous person, in North America, because, we've all suffered similar losses. And, I think if we given the opportunity, and our community was threatened with another seaway or another high tension power line coming through a community, or another highway, we were doing the same and calling for the same support. In 1990, during the so-called Oka crisis, we had our communities had support right across Canada, and it's only natural for us to provide that same support back in repaying that gratitude, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And of course, all eyes will be kept out on that story as things continue to develop and unfold out there. One of the fun stories that we got to really dig into this month was the Kahnawake Fire Brigade's redesign of one of their existing trucks, which was engine number 5. And I think at this point, we've all probably had the opportunity to see the truck, because it's just beautifully redesigned. Greg, would you like to also talk a little bit more about this truck?
Sure. For people who may not know, I'm also a member of the Kahnawake Fire Brigade's executive committee. And when Fire Chief David Scott brought the idea to the executive committee and explaining that the funds required for this redesign, because it's not a whole new paint job, it's a wrap that was done by a business in Chattagee that does that specifically. That was coming out of money that was fund. They have a fundraising account that the officers at the fire brigade members use all year. They raised money, came out of that fund, so no funds were taken from any other programs. The executive committee said, "Yeah, this is a great idea. This is something it's really important, and it really gets that message out that every child matters, especially given the year that we've had where we've seen things coming to light, regarding residential schools and all that, right? So it was natural for the executive committee to say, yeah, we stand by you guys in doing this.
I thought it was especially cool that David Scott kind of kept the news under wraps, if you will. He told a lot of people at the hall that the truck was simply going out for some maintenance and some small repairs. And of course, when it returned with the words "Every child matters." There's feathers on the truck as well, and of course it's predominantly orange and black, and he just was hoping that it was just going to fill people with pride every time they see it, so that people never forget about it either.
Yeah, and the plan was for it to be for the community to see it at this past weekend's holiday parade. But of course, people being very enthusiastic, seeing it. Pictures were shared on social media. The truck had to respond to a Sitso bus that caught on fire on Tuesday night last week. So people had seen it. So it didn't actually get to make its official debut at the parade. But that's where most community members seen it for the first time, though.
Right. And David Scott was also mentioning that there could be an opportunity here to use other pieces of fire brigade equipment to, maybe help promote or spread messages, one of which was autism awareness, which is something that he said that he was looking into to try and maybe incorporate on some of the equipment. So it'd be really interesting to see how they're able to do these things going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fire brigade is a community organization, and it's one of those organizations that I think everybody needs, that doesn't always use, but when they use it, it's very much appreciated. And the fire brigade members, they also want to show, I think, the appreciation that they have to the community by helping raise awareness to different issues.
Right, absolutely. We had two Haudenosaunee lacrosse teams that recently made a little bit of history. Again, I'm going to look over to Greg, our resident lacrosse expert, if you will. But he's also the man who covered the story, so you'll be able to fill us in on all the details regarding that.
In international play, up until very recently, like 2 weeks ago, the Haudenosaunee teams have not beat Canada internationally, at any level. Canada's the world powerhouse in lacrosse. The Haudenosaunee is right up there, especially in box lacrosse. You go back to all the world championships that have been played. The gold medal has always been decided between Canada and the Haudenosaunee. Canada coming out on top. There's a few times where the games were very close, went to overtime, different things. But, that's just been how it's been going. But over the years, we've seen a definite increase in the skill level of our players. Just a few weeks ago, there was a tournament. It was a small tournament held in Messina, hosted by the Haudenosaunee. It was part of an organization called the International Junior Box Lacrosse Association, or something along those lines. They do a U19 World Championship, and they also decided this year to introduce new age levels, including U18 and U13. There was two teams with, the U18 team features Ganawagi Ronu, Cayman Dibo. And then the U15 team, there was 4 kids from town, Sut Degayan, 2 Van Domelin, Darius Jones, Chaz Norton, and Suggo Rice. They made this team, and they made history. During the round robin portion of the tournament, they dominated Canada, and then went on to win the tournament. The tournament featured the Haudenosaunee, Canada, and US, all very talented teams. So history was made when first the U15 team won, beat Canada. And then following that, the U18 did the same. And then both went on to go undefeated in the tournament and win everything. So these two teams made history, becoming the first two teams, Haudenosaunee Nationals teams, that have won a world championship, which is amazing.
And you've been to quite a, like, I know you were mentioning, Greg, that this was a bit of a smaller scale tournament, if you will. However, you've been to some of the bigger international tournaments, the world tournaments and things like that. So how does it feel to know that, Team Haudenosaunee, they did it, they made it happen?
It's amazing. I mean, like, talking to, one of the coaches, actually talking to both Garrett Cree and Al Jones, who coached on the U15 team. Al, his son, played on the team, and Al's played for the Iroquois Nationals internationally. And, for him, he's like, this is amazing. It feels great. And to see these teams do that well, it's just, it's amazing, because we know the future's bright. Yes, it was a smaller tournament, but, as these kids grow up, they know what it feels like to beat Canada, to beat the US. And they play at the highest level. So these kids are going to be on these teams, as they grow up, and then, they're the future. So in 5 years from now, they're going to be, kids that are on these teams are going to be the ones that are on the Haudenosaunee Nationals senior team that may well be competing in the Olympics. So and to have that experience, to be able to say, yeah, we beat Canada, this is what we did. and we're the first ones to beat Canada. And, that's just amazing.
Absolutely something to be proud of. And I heard you mention the name Cayman Dibo, and I know Cayman is somebody that Marc Lalonde has been writing a little bit about earlier this month.
Absolutely. And it's been a remarkable season for that young man. He, winning the world championship on one level. And then the last couple of weeks, it
was actually the same weekend.
Sorry, it was the same weekend as he led his Champlain-Lennoxville CEGEP lacrosse team to a provincial championship. They beat John Abbott College 15-3.
In field lacrosse, right?
Yes, in field lacrosse. Pretty remarkable that this young man is so skilled. He's, as a 17-year-old, he was second in the league in scoring this year in the CEGEP League. Interviewing his coach, Paul Lehman, couldn't say enough great things about the kid, called him an artist with a lacrosse stick. And from everything that we've seen and heard to this point, I feel like that's probably a little bit of an understatement. Really looking forward to see what happens next season with those Lennoxville Cougars, because Cayman is coming back next season to finish his studies there. And another young man from town, Cy Deer, will be joining the Lennoxville Cougars as well. Promises to be a remarkable CEGEP season next year. Frankly, hoping to see more games than I saw this year. And if any of our listeners are interested, they can Google the Champlain-Lennoxville Cougars and check out our very own Brandon Bordeaux on play-by-play for the Lennoxville Cougars, and it's a lot of fun. So I would highly recommend that a lot of our viewers check that out. This young man's future is so bright, he's got to wear shades. So I'm eager to see how the next few years pan out for him and how that's going to go.
As some very, very exciting lacrosse news to talk about, especially at this time of the year when we're usually not talking about lacrosse anymore. We're usually into some of the winter sports. So it's great to still be talking about lacrosse at this time of year.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Our community has a very, very rich military history. And of course, we look back on that on Remembrance Day. And of course, we had Remembrance Day activities here in the community to celebrate our veterans.
This year, we were able to have a Remembrance Day parade like we kind of normally do. It wasn't quite the same in numbers wise, but we were able to actually have one this year on the weekend right before November 11th. Newly named Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Marc Miller made it. He's also a veteran and has been coming to the Kahnawake Remembrance Day parades for the last few years. So he made an appearance once again. And then on Remembrance Day, the Thursday, the members of the Legion gathered at the cenotaph and had their Remembrance Day ceremony itself on that day. And this is something that I think that is continually done, and I mean, and it's great because it gives a chance for the community to see who our veterans are and honor them, right? This is because of our rich military history in this community.
Yeah, the folks over at Legion Branch 219 are always doing such a great job to make sure that our veterans are never forgotten. And I think it's incredible that the students from the neighboring Cattery School were able to go over to the cenotaph that day to join in on the festivities and lay some wreaths and different things like that, which was really nice to see that the youth get involved with things like that, for sure. Switching gears to a different type of parade, not a Remembrance Day parade, but a holiday parade. We also had our holiday parade here in Kahnawake earlier this month, with a heck of a lot of fun.
And it made its return because last year they didn't hold it because of the pandemic.
Yes, that's right. And people were absolutely ready for it. If you checked out the parade route or any of the roads along the parade route, it was absolutely filled. And I know that you guys were out there getting quite a bit of coverage, and it's just so fun to see. It's a great way to kick off the holiday season.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, it looks like because they didn't have it last year, they made up for it this year by doubling the route. For the first time in the short history of the holiday parade, it passed by the Cattery Memorial Hospital Center, which gave the residents there who are recently dealing with an outbreak of COVID, so visitors weren't allowed, so it gave them the opportunity to see, get out and look out the window and see the parade coming by, and all the nicely decorated floats, the bright lights, and all the hard work that everybody put involved. A wider segment of the community was able to enjoy that.
Yeah, and it was nice to see the floats handing out, small gifts and goodies to the kids. And of course, this year's parade was organized by the Kahnawake Peacekeepers. And due to the success of the parade, I believe that the route might look pretty similar for the coming years if everything goes well.
Nice. I mean, and it was just a lot of fun, right? Everybody was waiting along the route and being very excited. Kids of all ages, really enjoyed themselves.
Right. And vaccination news for the 5 to 11-year-olds.
Health Canada announced, I think on Friday, November 19th, that it had approved a lower dosage of the COVID-19 vaccine for children aged 5 to 11. On Tuesday of this week, the Quebec government announced that it was starting its vaccine campaign for those age groups and allowing for parents to book their children's appointments on Click Santé. And this week, the Catherine Memorial Hospital Center confirmed that parents could also go through the KMHC's COVID-19 website, click on the vaccination portal to access Click Santé to book appointments for their children should they choose to get them vaccinated.
Absolutely. And it's been another busy November in our community, and we're anticipating a lot more busyness in the coming months. So I'm just wondering what you guys are looking forward to covering in the coming weeks as we get a little bit closer to Christmas here.
Well, one thing I'm really looking forward to covering, and I'm not sure if it's covering or just being present at, and that's Saturday. We're going to be screening brand new Yuriwase documentary at Ganawagi Brewing Company at 1, 3, and 5 p.m. And I'm looking forward to that because the documentary is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it again. But in the coming month, I'm very much looking forward to getting into some of those Ganawagi holiday traditions that were lost amidst the pandemic a year ago, and maybe are coming back with a little bit more vim and vigor than a year off would indicate. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, Greg, I know you're always busy, so this is a silly question because you always have something to do. But what are you looking forward to? Maybe a mix of covering and doing it throughout the holidays.
I think that as we're getting into the holiday season, go and check out the Winter Wonderland, which is starting on Saturday at Restaurante La Vista at Mystic Pines, just after 138. I think that fundraising effort is one of those things in the community that shows just how good our community is and raising money for a worthy cause. And I'm really looking forward to both going to that and covering it.
Oh, it was great catching up with you guys, and of course we'll be keeping our eyes on all things news related in and around Ganawagi in the coming weeks. So Nyawgo for joining us, guys.
No,
thank you.
Nyawgo for listening. Stay up to date with all Yuriwase podcasts, including Profiles, The Cycle, and Front Page by following the Yuriwase podcast channel on Apple, Spotify, and Google. This project has been made possible by the Community Media Strategic Support Fund, which is offered jointly by Official Language Minority Community Media Consortium and the Government of Canada.